we can't all be as like book learned like you, Star.
Yeah, I'm book smart. Yeah, you guys are just.
I mean, we just like
street smart ones.
We just read what's ever on the front page of Amazon.
No, y'all know how the streets work. You know how to get stuff done. Outside of formal channels, if you know what I mean.
Never forget that you have the tools to build a life on your own terms. Forget the haters. This is FounderQuest.
So we were going to, I think, talk about we've been gone for several weeks. And I think we're just going to talk about what we're going to do. And I've decided, I think we shouldn't call it, we shouldn't say that we had a vacation. Because
I had like multiple vacations.
No,
and I did some work.
Hush. Okay. No, I think we shouldn't call it a vacation. I think we should say that this is season 2 of FounderQuest.
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay, so season 2, go.
Yeah, nobody says like Serial had a vacation.
Right.
They're just on, they had a new season.
So are we going to be a serial podcast now?
Well, we come out serially, so yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
It's just whenever we want to go on vacation, we'll just say there's a new season.
Nice.
So people have to stay tuned.
Well, I can't wait for season 3.
Well, we don't get canceled. That would suck.
Yeah.
So how were your vacations, Josh?
Yeah. How many vacations did you take?
I think I took 2. The first one was I was planning to take some time off, but it was not as planned as this last one. But yeah, in August, I took a couple weeks off just to kind of recuperate and disconnect and stuff. This last week, I just got back from visiting my kids' grandparents, my parents in Arizona. That was fun. It wasn't, I don't know, it was still a lot of work because the kids, taking 2 little toddlers on an airplane. That was the first time we done that. But yeah, it was fun. Got some sun. They have a pool, so we spent a lot of time by the pool.
Nice.
I see a little bit of a 1,000-yard stare in your eyes.
Yeah.
I think the like children on the airplane thing.
Star, you did that too, right? You just got back from...
Yeah, so I got back from also a grandparent vacation, but this time the grandparents, my partner's parents, were like, hey, we've got this timeshare in Mexico, in Puerto Vallarta, and so you should come down. And I've got to tell you, boys, I was really skeptical because it seemed like we were doing all the work, right? Because normally, like, paying for accommodations is not the most daunting part of an international vacation with a 3-year-old. I was really skeptical, but it turned out to be super nice and relaxing because they have the timeshare they have. It was very nice. It was a sort of like all-inclusive resort, and they had this giant like 4-bedroom like suite with balconies and a hot tub on a balcony. And like I got to sit during the day for several hours for multiple days in a row and just like read by myself. I haven't gotten to do this unless I just like skip work and do it or something.
That's what I do, by the way.
It's not the same, right? Because you feel like you need to get back. So yeah, it was just great. And I mean, it wasn't really a cultural trip, but I've lived for a year in Mexico. So I feel like I have a good, appreciation of the Mexican people and country and culture already. So a little bit of a resort vacation was kind of welcome, I think.
I also got to spend some time reading by the pool while the kids were napping, and it was very nice. What about you, Ben?
I did not take any vacations with toddlers, but I did drop off my older son at college. He just started college this fall, and that was a pretty wild experience, let me tell you. And I got some house work done, like had contractors doing work on my house. So I'm flat broke now because between college and then my car broke down. I had to replace a bunch of stuff on it.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's been one hit after another. It's been crazy, but it's a good summer. I got to relax a bit, and I didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything, but I read some books, and I hit the trail with my bike several times, which is nice. We had a good summer here in Kirkland, so checking out of work at lunchtime and going riding is a good thing.
You're going to take some time off later this year, right?
Yeah, in a couple weeks. I'll be heading to visit my parents. Haven't seen them at their house in quite a while, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's like a big life milestone. When you think about it, it's a little bit of a permanent vacation.
Yeah.
It's like they're out for good, I mean, till they, decide to become an artist and then come back because, art doesn't really pay much. You got a couple of years.
Yeah. It's interesting. The house is definitely quieter. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But, kids these days, like he texts his mom on a regular basis, and when I went off to college, I never talked to my parents because I couldn't afford to call them. It was all long distance phone calls. There was no email.
Oh, that's right.
It was like, write them a letter.
Like, go down to the telegraph station.
Yeah.
So it's a little different these days than it was back in my day, but it's still fun. And he's still in the dorm and doing all the college stuff, so it's cool.
That's good. I've got a plan for Ida to sort of pay for college, and that's just like have her, join the circus instead. I've got a friend who used to be a carny. I think he might be able to get her like an in, a little foot in the door.
Yeah, well, I think connections are really important in getting your kids into college these days, I hear. So it's good to have those.
Totally. It's not a meritocracy, people. I'm sorry to break this to you. The world is not a meritocracy.
Yeah, only chumps like me actually pay for college.
Well, you know what I did? I've been saving for my kids' college since before both of them were born, because that's just what I do. I figure I'll save a certain amount, and if it goes to college, great. If it goes to some other kind of education, it doesn't have to be college, and hopefully it's not, to be honest. But we'll see.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you get a pool.
You're going to be one of those micro people. You're going to be like micro and be like, you don't need to go to college. You go to grade school. It's okay. So Josh, like you came back and like immediately were interviewed like by some pretty like serious famous podcasters, right?
I know. Yeah. I'm a minor celebrity now, I'm pretty sure, because I was on Indie Hackers. I did an interview with Indie Hackers a couple weeks ago. I think it came out last Monday, and it was a lot of fun. Me and Cortland Allen is the host there, and he's a great interviewer. We had a lot of fun just kind of going through the Honey Badger story.
Refresh my memory. I think they're the people who are always they're always sort of, back when I read Hacker News before I realized it was a trash fire, they were always getting sort of featured on Hacker News and stuff because it's like, learn about so-and-so small product team and they make this much money now and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So that that's the sort of thing it is, right?
Yeah. It's like a podcast for, honestly, it's, a lot of pretty similar to our audience with basically like bootstrappers, but I think they lean heavily towards because of the hacker part, and bootstrap developers that are trying to do their own thing. Yeah, so that's right where we fall in. A lot of their other a lot of the other people on the podcast fall into a similar space like us, I think.
Yeah, I listened to that. It was good. You did a good job on that.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. You're always like, you don't know how it goes. Like right after I always think the worst, and I'm like, review everything I said in my head. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty good.
Oh yeah, when we started this podcast, I remember, Josh, that you were always like, "Oh, I was so dumb sounding," and I was editing them, and I was like, "No, you didn't sound dumb. You sounded pretty smart." But it's the same thing. Like I had the same thoughts, and I would go into the editing process and just feel like I was so off the rails, scattered, and whatever. And then I listened to it, and it's like, no, I sounded pretty like I knew what I was doing.
The process of recording this podcast has helped a lot, just to make me a little more comfortable sitting down and talking. I think enjoy it now.
You guys haven't necessarily had this experience sitting down and like listening to your own voice every week for like an hour or so. It's just really sort of enlightening in a strange way. I can't really put words to it. It's just like, it's like you learn kind of what you really sound like, as opposed to what you always sort of imagine you sound like in your head. It gives you a little bit of perspective.
I know some people, I know a number of people who podcast and just won't listen to their episodes. They just, record and ship it and then it's gone.
They're missing out on a wonderful growth opportunity.
I was not sure if I was going to do that or listen. And I do listen to them now. And I think, like you said, listening does help you kind of perfect your, cadence and, the ums and ahs and stuff. I like to think I'm getting a little bit better at dropping those, as I say like 5 of them.
It's all right. I mean, you're better, not perfect, right?
Yeah. Every little bit is an improvement.
Yeah. When we first started, I had a real problem because I was so used to like having a complete thought form before I started talking. And it turns out like on radio or podcast, you kind of just have to start talking and trust in the universe to give you something to say, because otherwise it's just going to be so stilted and slow, and it takes forever to edit together.
I think that on The Office, that was Michael Scott's formula for telling jokes, I think, is to just like start a train of thought
start
and then
talking?
and then hope it turns out. Yeah.
Wait, so I haven't seen The American Office. Which one is Michael Scott?
He's Steve Carell's
Oh, the main
character.
one.
Yeah, the main one, the boss.
You're comparing me to a satirical character, Josh. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're a total Michael Scott, just a shoe-in.
It's okay. I love you too. So let's see. What have we been up to, like with the product and stuff? I mean, we haven't really been all just completely on vacation. We've been like, we shipped a major feature like breadcrumbs. Did we talk about this in an earlier podcast?
I don't think so. We talked about CSPs. I think breadcrumbs was still in stealth mode, so we hadn't actually discussed it. Yeah. Every
time people say stealth mode, I just think of like Knight Rider, and it just sounds so cool. I want everything to be in stealth mode. So what are breadcrumbs? Can somebody explain breadcrumbs to me?
Oh, sorry. I got kind of distracted by the whole Knight Rider thing. I was thinking about Airwolf and how cool that show was.
It's okay. We're all distracted by Knight Rider. I mean, they had the Hoff, right?
Yeah.
Airwolf, no.
It was like
I've never seen
Knight Rider,
Airwolf.
but a helicopter instead of a car. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is.
It was called Airwolf?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty sweet. Check it out.
Oh, man. The 80s. The 80s were very weird. They were weird.
All right. So breadcrumbs.
Were they weirder than now? Oh, sorry.
Breadcrumbs,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah. So breadcrumbs, the feature allows you to track the things that happened in your application right before an error happened. So maybe a user clicked on a certain thing or certain queries got run or whatever. And so it allows you to basically have some additional context. We already had the notion of context. When you reported an error, you could report things like the user ID or maybe an order ID or whatever was like in flight at the time the error happened. So breadcrumbs basically extends that idea a bit and says, okay, you can stuff a bunch of activities that happened that were leading up to the event into this, it's basically an array that gets sent to us. And so you can say, oh, well, they encountered this page or they ran this query or whatever. And that helps set the scene for how that error could have happened. It's pretty handy information.
Can I tell you of a place where I could have really used breadcrumbs, like sort of recently, but they were just not quite, shipped and ready? We use Honey Badger internally, as you guys know, to keep track of our internal errors, because we do have a couple. And so I was going and one of my morning routine things is I go and check the errors specifically for like the front end JavaScript stuff, because that's the stuff I'm most likely to break. And I noticed there was this weird specific class of error where our front end code, full confession, we use jQuery still because it's just awesome. When we built the app, yeah, you're right. You know what? I should own this.
Yeah.
Like jQuery is awesome. We love it. We're never getting rid of it. No. We're using jQuery, and for some reason, jQuery was interpreting AJAX request response as JavaScript, and then it was saying there was a syntax error in the JavaScript. And in case you've never had this happen to you before, this is one of those JavaScript errors that gives you literally no information other than like something bad happened, and it's just like syntax errors. Like, great, what's the syntax error? Please tell me. So I had to go and sort of do a little custom instrumentation to basically log every AJAX request that happened in the application. And basically, so I could figure out which one was returning. Actually, I could figure out which one happened just before the error to see like what it was returning. Because to be honest, we don't really have a lot of like AJAX responses that should be returning JavaScript. We have a couple, which is another great technique. And yeah, so breadcrumbs would have been really nice, because then it would have let me just see sort of maybe automatically that, well, here's all the responses we got. And I wouldn't have had to look at that manually. It turns out, you want to know the punchline? It turns out that jQuery, because it's so awesome and so user-friendly, unless you tell it exactly what type of response to expect from an AJAX call, it will do its best to figure it out for you. And for some reason, our Nginx error pages that you get when you're throttled or whatever, for some reason it was interpreting those as JavaScript that it needed to execute, even though there's not. I checked the headers, I checked there's nothing in it that looks like JavaScript. I have no idea why.
There's not like a $sign in the body.
Oh, there may be, because I'm all about the Benjamins,
if there's a $sign, it's jQuery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Anyway, that would have been useful.
That's exactly like that is the use case for breadcrumbs. Yeah. And we launched them so far. We launched them for Ruby and Elixir, and I'm currently working on the JavaScript implementation. So pretty soon you will be able you won't have to hack all that networking code together to see what's happening.
Well, what am I going to do when like Honey Badger just does everything for me? This is a problem our users are going to have.
Yeah. Just vacation and record seasons
more
of
vacations. FounderQuest.
Yeah.
So one other thing that we've been doing is, or I've been doing mostly, is revamping the blog. Like if you, dear listeners, go and look at our blog at honeybadger.io/blog, you'll see a brand new spiffy design.
Looks amazing.
It looks amazing. Yeah. No lie, it does. So that's one of the things I've been working on because we're going to have a sort of a big new effort, a big new push around blogging. And it's kind of interesting because the genesis of this is actually kind of interesting because one of the things I really like to do is occasionally sort of download a whole just ton of CSVs full of data around all aspects of our business and then just sort of disappear for a couple of weeks and crunch it and try and figure out what it means. And so I noticed that in sort of the times when we happened to be the most active sort of blogging, we actually saw some results from that in terms of revenue and all that. And they were the type of results, though, that they were really kind of hard to see in the moment. Because I remember checking stuff and checking stats in the moment when we were blogging. But, after 6 months or a year, it was pretty obvious. And so, so my big new push is blogging. And so new blog design is sort of the first step because we want this thing to look great and we want it to look attractive to people. And, the second step, which I'm working on now, is finding authors because I like to write and, I plan on writing, but sort of keeping up the level and the pace of blog posts that we really need. I did it once and it just wasn't sustainable. It was just really stressful and I ran out of things I knew about to write.
You blogged a lot, Star.
Yeah, I was you
were like a blogging machine.
I was doing a technical blog post every day, basically.
It was your full-time job.
So now I'm trying to maybe recreate sort of the success that we had in that, but in a way where that it's sort of more like a system, more like a business should be, right? Where we sort of hire people to do some work and we do some of it in-house. And so it's kind of this big new thing. I'm excited about it and we'll see how it goes.
Tell me about the quality of the blog posts and the authors that you're looking for. Because I don't know, maybe we have some listeners who would be interested in writing for us.
That's a great idea.
What do you think? I mean, we are on this podcast here where developers listen to us.
So I've been working on a sort of author recruitment document, which I shared with you guys yesterday, and it includes a lot of this. And I guess I'll publish that, and we'll probably link it in the show notes and everything. But basically, what we're looking for, the type of content we're looking for, and that we've had success with in the past, sort of has to do with teaching people sort of fundamentals and teaching people how things work at maybe a level deeper than a lot of tutorials usually go. Because there's so much content on the web that's just about how do I, build a form? How do I make a to-do app in, Angular? Does Angular still exist? I don't know. But
I'm pretty sure it does.
There's just a lot of this very sort of tactical content that's how to do a specific thing. And, that's useful and everything. But what I found personally, and I think how this relates to the mission of Honey Badger as a company is, we help people deal with errors in their systems and fix their errors. And one of the things that I found to be really useful is to have a sort of very broad knowledge of things and to try and sort of understand how systems work. Because a lot of times the thing that's causing your error is maybe a misunderstanding of something that's sort of fundamental to the system. Or maybe it's maybe there's a leaky abstraction where the operating system and the way it works is somehow influencing the way your code needs to work. And maybe your code didn't take that into account. So I think the blog is all about just sort of providing people that context and providing this sort of rich sort of learning experience that teaches people things that they're going to stick with them for a year or two. And it's not just something they're going to sort of forget or it's going to expire because a new version of Node came out in 3 weeks. So that's the sort of thing we're looking for. And we're looking to find people who we can work with on a sort of a long-term basis to do lots of articles. We're going to pay very well compared to most places that pay for blog posts. We're going to start at,
the price is free, right? Like we're just
looking, you're doing it for free.
You get the privilege of guest posting on the Honey Badger blog, which that's exposure right there.
Exposure is the ultimate currency. That's right. So no, we're going to pay him money. And I talked with Peter Cooper about this actually, and he said this is actually a very sort of generous sort of starting rate. We're going to start at $500 for sort of average article, whatever that means. We're still kind of working it out. More complex stuff, we'll pay more for. We're not interested in nickeling and diming people. And we're interested in having sort of excellent content that really helps people. So I don't know, if you're interested in working with us on that, working with me specifically, then yeah, get in touch. We will link to that on show notes in Twitter and whatever.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So what else is going on?
A lot of what I do is not visible to our customers. A lot of the work that I do is in the background. It's, as long as you don't notice any problems, then I'm doing my job, right? I like what Star was saying about how we're looking for people to write content that's not about the tactical, here's how you do a thing, but more about here's how you understand stuff. And in contrast, like when I write for our blog, I typically write about here's how to do a thing because I'm doing this kind of things in the background. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool to share, right? So I love writing about that kind of stuff. And I think I'll continue doing that. But
yeah, which is totally useful as well.
It's fun. And I like learning stuff. And then, to me, I think one of the things, whenever you learn something, it's a good time to write about it because as you teach other people, you learn it better and you start to poke holes in your own experience and you see where you may have messed something up. But so recently I've spent the past week or two redoing our internal Honey Badger instance. So Sarah mentioned that, we use Honey Badger to track Honey Badger. Our instance was a little out of date because we've been making some significant changes over the past year. Like we switched from Solr to Elasticsearch. We started using Lambda a lot more. So there are a bunch of moving parts to our production Honey Badger instance that hadn't quite made it to our internal Honey Badger instance. So in the past week or two, I've basically replaced our internal Honey Badger instance with a brand new stack. And while I was in there, I thought, hey, why don't I automate all this? So, while I'm doing some work, let me do some extra work that no one's going to notice. I built an entire Terraform infrastructure that boots up a new region for us. So it creates the VPC, it creates all the security groups, the Elasticsearch cluster, the RDS instance, the EC2 instance. You just run apply and all of a sudden we have buckets and lambdas and everything. It's pretty cool.
I don't know, Ben. That sounds like a huge waste of time. I don't see how that could ever be useful, to be honest. I mean,
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Can I ask you a question that may betray my ignorance or maybe just my memory? Are we using RDS for our main Postgres?
So for our production, since we are not, we are self-hosting Postgres. We use Patroni to have automated failover, and that's been working like a champ.
Okay. So the way that you work so often, Ben, is you just sort of slide things in. And so I know we talked about using RDS for our main Postgres. And so I was just like, did you just do this? Just
that one time that Josh went on vacation, or I placed everything with Cassandra.
That's my favorite. Just I come back and there's Cassandra. Everything is running on Cassandra. And I'm like, well, it sounds like this RDS chain, maybe this is kind of a good test environment for trying out these ideas. And then potentially we could implement those changes, go the other direction and roll that out in
Before we
production.
I feel like I should explain that RDS is it's one of their managed database hosting options that you would use instead of running your own server and running your own Postgres on top of it.
What I did is I created this in a separate AWS account. I created a new account so that it would be just, from scratch and there wouldn't be any conflicts with our production environment or our testing environment. And the goal was to be able to just run Terraform and you can get a full stack and you could do all kind of experiments with it, right? So we can, you name it, you can try it out. Or if even just one of us wants to have that full environment that's not on our laptop, right? You could have that too. So we could do things test a new version of Postgres. So for example, it's running this internal instance is running Postgres 11 and we're still on 9.6 in our production environment. So I get to test that. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because I tested the new partitioning scheme in Postgres. I think Postgres 10 introduced this and Postgres 11 made it even better. In 9.6 that we're using in production, we use PG Partman. It manages our partitions for us. And so basically what a partition is, because I know you'll want to explain this. A partition splits up your big database table into smaller tables. So you can more effectively manage the data that's in there. You can have queries against smaller tables because it's partitioned, say, by day or by month. And in older versions of Postgres that didn't have native partitioning, you had to use triggers. So like an insert would happen to a parent table, and the trigger would say, oh, no, don't put it in the parent table, put it in one of the child tables. The new partitioning that was introduced in version 10 and made better in version 11 now has that built into Postgres. So you don't have to use triggers. It actually understands how you can split a table into multiple child tables. And so just the past couple days, it actually did that in our new internal environment. So now it's using the native Postgres partitioning rather than Partman. So stuff like that will eventually roll back into our production environment after being tested in this standalone environment. Yeah, it's fun.
Nice. Good work. Yeah, I think FounderQuest, we are sort of on track for, being back. I think we're back. Are we back?
We're back.
Okay. Well, now, when you go to MicroConf next year, everybody can come up to you and say, I know what you did last summer. I've been saving that one up this whole time.
Well done.
I've just been dying. I've been waiting for my spot.
But,
all right. Well, should we wrap this one up?
Or what? It's not happening in Vegas next year.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I know.
It'll be happening in Minneapolis.
Yeah, what's up with that? It's I didn't want it to be in Vegas, but I didn't want it to be like a layover plane ride away. I'm just going to bitch about whatever happens.
Well, we went to Minneapolis for RailsConf. It was nice, really nice. And yes, you can get a direct flight there. So yeah.
Oh, you can? Okay, I didn't know that. I think I may have missed a direct flight last time I went there, but I went to Madison, not Minneapolis. Oh my God, the Midwesterners are just going to be throwing cheese. All right. Well, it was great talking with you guys. And if you're ready to wrap it up, I think we can do that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
FounderQuest is a weekly podcast by the founders of Honey Badger. Zero instrumentation, 360-degree coverage of errors, outages, and service degradations for your web apps. If you have a web app, you need it. Available at honeybadger.io. Want more from the founders? Go to FounderQuestPodcast.com. That's one word. You can access our huge back catalog or sign up for our newsletter to get exclusive VIP content. FounderQuest is available on iTunes, Spotify, and other purveyors of fine podcasts. We'll see you next week.